Turning to the truth behind the glamour of a once prominent sports broadcaster. Lisa Guerrero hosted a sports show for several years before becoming an NFL sideline reporter in the early 2000s. She was fired after one season. She's now an award-winning journalist and chief investigative correspondent for the news magazine Inside Edition. Her new memoir details the sexism, misogyny, harassment, and suicidal thoughts that she experienced throughout her career as a sports broadcaster.
I knew my sports. I wanted to be a sports reporter. I started at CBS 2 in Los Angeles as a local sports reporter, and there were very few women like me at the time in the 90s. And so I quickly went from local to regional to national. But what I noticed along the way was that I was constantly being marginalized or judged simply by what I looked like or what the labels were that people put on me back then.
Former cheerleader,
model, bimbo. And it was really difficult for me to be able to try to push those labels off of me.
Your memoir, Warrior, My Path to Being Brave, is available now. I mean, you worked in sports. You talk about the treatment of, the things that you wouldn't dare to do in fear of rocking the boat, so to speak. Pivoting careers. I mean, it's all in here, and it's so brave and strong and such a North Star of a guide for all of us human beings in the world. But why did you decide to write it?
Thank you for that. And I want to cry, but I'm not going to. What I will say is that I think that people see me on TV chasing after bad guys on Inside Edition.
Now.
They say, well, now.
Yeah.
But I think they say, this is a brave woman. I want to be like her. And I realized that they think I'm brave all the time and that I was born that way. But I wasn't. I went through a lot as a sportscaster, as a model, as an actress. I faced misogyny, and I faced a lot of obstacles. And I wanted to tell them that you can turn your pain into power. That's why I'm brave.
That's it.
Guerrero, my last name, Guerrero, means warrior in Spanish. When I was little, my mother was diagnosed with lymphoma when I was 8 and she was 29 years old. Before she died, she was a Chilean immigrant. Before she died, she pulled me aside and she said, never forget, Lisa. Your last name, Guerrero, means warrior. You were born to fight.
Wow.
She passed away a month later. Wow. But at 8 years old, I didn't know what to do with that. I mean, what does that mean? You were born to fight.
Yeah.
And what does the heritage mean? What is that connection, the warrior in you? Yeah. And it wasn't until really decades later that I discovered what I was meant to do, and that's to fight for others.
It was worth it. Every second, every tear, every challenge, all of this was worth it, to tell these stories, to let people know that you can come back after these horrible, traumatic challenges and still be successful and still have your voice and find your voice, that you can be brave. You need to practice bravery every day and you can become more courageous. So it was worth it. It was worth it to tell these stories, as painful as they are.
I couldn't tell anybody about the pain that I was enduring because they thought of me as somebody on TV and had this perfect marriage and this great job. And I just carried this weight of this depression and guilt and humiliation by myself.
You didn't even tell your dad, with whom you're so close.
I didn't tell my dad because I didn't want him to be worried about me. I didn't want him to hurt for me. I knew that if he knew I was in this pain, he would be in pain.
And you actually in the book talk about a moment you were driving on the Pacific Coast Highway, which is a very terrifying road. It's twisty, turny, it's a cliff, the Pacific Ocean is down there, and you actually had a thought about going left instead of going right.
Correct.
Going off the side.
Correct.
But you chose not to.
I chose not to because I had an instinct. This isn't where your story ends.
Right.
Your story doesn't end here. Pull over, take a breath, call your dad. And I did.
We have watched our next guest fearlessly seek out justice for victims as the chief investigative correspondent for Inside Edition.
Yes.
Now she's helping others find courage of their own by sharing lessons from her life in the new book, Warrior, My Path to Being Brave.
I believe that bravery is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger you become. So today,
everybody must find a time when you would typically be worried about confrontation, or you don't want to try a new lipstick, or you don't want to be the first person to raise your hand in class. I say do that one brave thing every day. And then the next day you do another brave thing, and the next day. And suddenly, when the time comes when you really need to be a badass, your bravery is going to be right there where you need it, and you are going to break out.
That's great. That is so great. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I feel like we should have wrote everything down. Well, it's written down right here.
Right there.
It's written down right here. Warrior is available now, and everyone in our studio audience is going home with a copy. If you're in Southern California,